Now it's time for Lefties Losing It, and the affluent white female liberals, awful for short, they are mobilising for the Democrats and they have a compelling message. I mean, who wouldn't be swayed by this?
This is a message for every single person who looks like me, specifically white women. It's time. This is no longer about politics, and you get to right your wrongs of 2016 when you didn't put a woman in the White House who was overly qualified. Now's your chance.
Thank God I don't look like her, because I think that means I don't have to listen to her. But you white women, well, sorry, but this is apparently a life and death matter. No hyperbole there.
This is no longer about red versus blue. This is our lives that we are playing with. And the piece that you have control over is who you vote for in November. You need to find a spine to stand up against the white men in your life who are telling you who should be your president.
Yes, ignore the white men and listen to this white woman. Makes perfect sense. And here is another totally sane white woman who has a message for America. Here is comic Chelsea Handler's rant about JD Vance's childless cat lady comments.
I mean, my God, are we tired? You sad, diet, Mountain Dew drinking, couch humping, dolphin porn aficionado, all of us childless cat and dog ladies are going to go from childless and crushing it to childless and crushing you in November.
And here is another white woman, this time a deranged MSNBC contributor, claiming that JD Vance's comments are motivated by, you guessed it, white supremacy. He only wants more white children.
The stats are there. More and more Americans choosing not to have kids, which again emphasizes why J.D. Vance's comments about childless Americans, childless cat ladies, could be so politically damaging.
Well, so what's interesting is this natalism that comes from an authoritarian playbook, right? That there need to be more white children, right? That's the idea, that there's, this is about great replacement theory, racism, right? This is what this is. So don't misunderstand it for him wanting more children. He wants a certain kind of, racist thing.
What can you say to that? JD Vance is the father of 3 biracial children. His children are not white, you dim-witted race-baiting simpleton. And look, it's not just white women for Kamala. The Democrats have really embraced their segregationist past, and they've also got what they call white dudes for Harris. This group, and yes, they do look exactly as you'd expect. Don't you just love a white men-only group created in the name of progress? Let's hear from these white dudes, starting with actor Jeff Bridges.
I'm white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris.
Over the last few years, I've been thinking a lot about men.
I'm not sure if you guys can recall that feeling you had on the night of Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. I stood over my kid's bed and I wept.
He stood over his kids' beds and wept and ate cookies, it looks like. Ladies, if you think there is a crisis in masculinity, you'd be right, because you won't detect any in this group.
In the marginalized communities that educate me every single day, that this is a constant education for all of us.
Kamala is carrying on her shoulders 248 years of pain, of agony, of hope, of frustration. And no matter how high she jumps, no matter how many degrees she has, no matter how good her grades are, she's never good enough because they're always moving the line.
What a variety of whiteness we have here. It's like a rainbow of beige.
But man, I am scared to death of what the future could look like if we go back to another Trump administration.
Now to the woman herself, Kamala Harris, the Oakland-born Californian whose Indian and Jamaican parents were both academics, one a scientist, the other a professor. This is how she normally speaks.
We are all in this together, and your vote is your power. So please make sure your voice is heard this November and register to vote at vote.gov.
That was Kamala on the set of a drag queen show. Here is Kamala in Atlanta talking to a mainly black audience. See if you can detect the subtle difference.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
Oh, yeah, she's suddenly got some sort of a southern urban drawl happening, and she's not bad at it.
I said to the congressman, I didn't know he could preach like that.
So authentic there. You would have spotted Terence K. Williams, comic Terence K. Williams there, and he is none too pleased with Kamala pandering to the black vote. Have a look at his reaction to her speech today.
Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say, say it to my face.
Girl, bye. You trying so hard to be black. When did you start talking like this? If you got something to say, then say it to my face. Kamala, stop trying so hard to pander to black people. In black people's faces. Pretending you are something that you're not.
Oh, there was certainly plenty of pandering happening at the Atlanta rally. Here's Megan Thee Stallion telling women that if they want to keep loving their curvy bodies, then they best vote for Harris. What?
And if you want to keep loving your body, you know who to vote for. Hey! Hey! Yeah. Body crazy, curvy waist. Yeah. Body crazy, curvy waist.
We've got plenty more lefties losing it to cover with my next guest, and Kamala Harris features again. She went from denying she was ever the border czar to bragging that she has a better track record on immigration than Donald Trump.
So in this campaign, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week. Any day of the week. Including, for example, on the issue of immigration.
Incredible stuff. Joining me now is commentator and documentary filmmaker Ami Horowitz. Ami, that message got cheers in Atlanta. Will it convince independent voters? Kamala, imagine what can be unburdened by what has been.
No, it's gaslighting of the first order, although I guess because technically she doesn't want to use the word, wants to ban the word illegal immigrant. So basically, guess she can calculate that on her watch. There's been no illegal people across the country. I guess by that math, she might be able to win that argument. Look, Rita, you and I actually debated this a while back. I got to be honest. When it came to the border deal that the president tried to push through and then blame the Republicans for not taking, yes, I know it was 3 years too late, obviously, but I think that what the Republicans did themselves by not engaging or taking that particular border deal was it allowed the Democrats to do exactly what I said then. Use that as a cudgel, as enough of a policy issue to muddle the issue for independent voters when they say, look, we came to the border deal, you said no, right? Just from that perspective alone, it's creating a lot of problems for what should be a very clear win for the Republicans in immigration. But I'll say this about Kamala Harris. So a man named William von Spronson, who was an Antifa radical terrorist who died in a fiery fight with federal agents who was attacking an ICE facility in Washington State. It's an Antifa terrorist. When he was killed, they found his manifesto. Well, guess what? If you look at what her policy prescriptions are for the border, it comes right after Wilhelm von Spronson's manifesto. She wants to ban ICE, stop deportations. These are all the issues that the Antifa radicals have been talking about. That's what the Republicans have got to hit over and over again, that she is an absolute radical and she carries the yoke of the failure of the administration, whether you want to call the border czar or not the border czar. End of the day, complete and total failure for the Democratic administration. 15 million people cross the border, which is, in Australia's terms, more than half of your population coming across the border illegally. Let's make that clear. And illegal immigration, while it has slipped slightly in national polls from 2 to 3, in some polls 2, some polls 3, in all the battleground states, it is still very solidly the #2 issue in the country. #1, of course, being the economy.
Now, another area where Kamala is performing spectacular backflips is energy policy and fracking in particular. The Hill and other media outlets are trying to tell us the Vice President will not seek to ban fracking if she's elected president in 2024, but she's on the record saying she wants to ban fracking.
I am committed to passing a Green New Deal, creating clean jobs, and finally putting an end to fracking once and for all.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue.
How important is this issue, particularly in those crucial swing states like Pennsylvania?
Let me think about this. Yeah, really, really important. Yeah, particularly Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the second largest producer of energy in the country. There are a tremendous amount of jobs tied to it. Additionally, what people really aren't talking about, it's very much a union state, and there's been a serious eroding of union support among the Democratic Party. It was, of course, one of the biggest groups supporting the Democratic Party. You've seen erosion of that. Trump has made a lot of headway in that. Also, so has JD Vance, frankly. It's an issue, of course, around jobs. Look, you have to remember that as California Attorney General, Kamala Harris not only backed the banning of fracking, she actually sued the Obama administration for federal fracking off the coast of California. And by the way, also, she was a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal, right? The most radical policy agenda, the greatest expansion of government that we've seen in 100 years in this country. She was a backer. She was a co-sponsor of it. So yeah, that dog ain't gonna hunt when she now is trying to say, hey, I'm not running for president, so yeah, I won't support the banning of fracking. That's just not true. It's not what her history shows. And she will, in fact, do that if she becomes president.
Well, as you said, it's her history. It's not just a position that she formed 5 minutes ago that she can back out of easily. This is in her DNA. This is what she actually believes and positions she's implemented in the past. So I think it's going to be a very hard sell indeed. Now, Harris is also campaigning on her record of being a tough prosecutor. They're trying to paint her as the law and order figure against convicted felon Trump. But she was actually quite soft on crime when it mattered. In recent years, she's backed BLM, she's backed bail funds freeing thugs, she's talked about defunding the police and reimagining public safety. And she's a San Francisco liberal. How much ownership, Army, does she have on what is happening in San Francisco and in California?
Yeah, I wouldn't say she has no responsibility. I mean, she was not only the chief prosecutor of San Francisco, which we've seen the city self-destruct over the years, certainly while she was the prosecutor there, and she was the California Attorney General. We've seen both Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego implode with crime and homelessness. Yeah, she has an involvement and responsibility in all of those things. I mean, she never, as California Attorney General, she never enforced California's immigration laws, which led to an overrun of illegal immigrants in the state of California. She, over and over again, decided not to use the death penalty, including the cases of someone who was a cop killer, one was a triple homicide. She was also there, you know, when somebody was trying to get a sex change, a murderer, she used taxpayer dollars to do that. No, you know what I don't like is when Republicans say she's an empty vessel, right? They've been there's been an attack that's been going on saying that she does whatever she can to move ahead. I don't like that particular perspective because it really absolves her responsibility. She is, in fact, a hard leftist. She has proven that both in deed and in word. I think you kind of take some of the responsibility off of her when you call her that. So, no, I think she takes a lot of responsibility for the problems in California. And if you want a repeat of what's happening in San Francisco, yeah, elect her as president.
That's a very good point because I think that accusation is also pretty empty because politicians will all say things to get elected. I don't think that's really a damning allegation. If you hold her record against her voting record in the Senate, for example, that's pretty poor in itself. Before you go, Army, we've had reports today that Israel has killed a top Hamas leader in Iran. Ismail Haniyeh was targeted and killed in Iran, according to a statement by the country's Revolutionary Guard. And this comes, Army, just hours after Israel killed a Hezbollah military leader, its most senior military leader.
Yeah, and all I can say is thank God and God bless Israel for doing that. Ismail Haniyeh was essentially the president or / prime minister of the terrorist state of Gaza. Ironically, wasn't living in Gaza. He was living in luxury in Qatar, as his people didn't have, as they claim, his people don't have food. They, in fact, do have quite a bit of food that's shipped in from Israel, by the way. The only time I think in recorded history that when you're at war with somebody else, you're providing them with food and energy. But yeah, while they are feeling the brunt of what he did on October 7th, he was living in luxury as a little rat in Qatar. And I think that ultimately we find out how he was murdered. I think it'll be one of the great stories and another legendary story to add to Mossad's storied history. So I'm very interested to see how they actually went about killing him.
And we'll make an amazing documentary. Maybe you'll put it together. Army Horowitz, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Always a pleasure.